Pro video tip coming at ya. If you need a skin softening filter on a budget, just do this. Soft skin, baby. Oh yeah. Oh, hello! Today on our How to Get Started on YouTube and Other Social Media series, we will be discussing editing and audio. Editing includes editing for pictures and for video, and audio includes audio in terms of microphone options and music for your YouTube videos. Let us begin. Tomato begin. Let's first discuss your options for editing pictures, mainly for Instagram. Take it over, voiceover Mikey.
Just like in the last video, we are starting out with the most absolute basic options I can think of and moving towards better quality long-term options. For Tier 1 picture editing for Instagram, I recommend using the built-in editing tools you can find right in the Instagram app itself. These editing tools and filters pop up right after you select a photo to upload and offer a big variety of adjustable filters as well as more isolated options like contrast, brightness, color saturation, sharpness, color temperature, vignette, etc. This is a great option because it's free with the app and it's easy to navigate. It also saves time since it's all done within the app itself. The downside is your options are limited and it degrades the quality of your photo. Your Tier 2 options are to download or buy specific photo editing apps on your smartphone. This tier requires a little more time, money, or sometimes both, but what you can do to your photos opens up significantly. There are a ton of free photo editing apps, including ones by recognizable names like Adobe, but spending a few dollars per app can also go a long way here. One of my most used photo editing apps is Afterlight, which does basically the same things that the built-in Instagram editor does, except with a lot more filters and adjustments and extras like adding in lens flares, etc, etc. Facetune is another popular one because it offers different options like blur and patch tools for problematic skin or other adjustments, but my favorite adjustment to make with this is to use the details tool on the eyes because it brightens and sharpens them so that they really stand out. Other apps I use are Fragment, VSCO, Square Ready, and PhotoGrid for some extra style and collaging options. The cost of these range from free to $5 each, and they are great options for people who don't know much about editing pictures, for people on a budget, and for people who want to be able to edit or stylize a picture quickly. The downside for this tier is similar to the first in that your editing options are still limited to what can be done on a phone, and the quality of the photo is usually degraded in most of these apps, but not in all cases. Tier 3 here is probably what you're already thinking I'm going to say, Adobe Photoshop, or any comparable software like Lightroom. Something like Photoshop gives you full creative range for how you'd like to stylize or enhance your images, and you can still maintain the quality of the photo. I can make the eyes stand out in something like Facetune from Tier 2, but if I were to do the same sort of effect in Photoshop, the outcome looks better, it can be better controlled, and it doesn't need to sacrifice any quality. The downside to doing it in Photoshop is that it may require basic to advanced knowledge of the program, and it takes more time to do than it would through the app in most cases. Every single filter in Instagram and smartphone apps can be replicated in Photoshop, but again, the time and skill level factor is something to consider. On top of that, it does cost significantly more money than the lesser options. It used to cost a hefty flat fee, but now Photoshop can be used for a monthly fee ranging from $10 a month to $80 a month, depending on the package that you're buying it with. You definitely do not need it to start out, but I do highly recommend this for anyone who will be making photo editing a normal part of their job or career, because it is considerably more helpful once you get familiar with how to use it.
Now let's talk about your options for editing video for YouTube. Your Tier 1 option for this is to use free editing software.
If you have an Apple product to edit on, I recommend iMovie, but there are PC and Linux-friendly free editing programs available too, such as Videoland Movie Creator. I recommend this for Tier 1 because it is both free, besides the cost of owning a computer, and very easy to use for the novice editor. iMovie and many similar programs come with easy-to-use templates for title cards and transitions, and putting clips together is simple to do. With all the editing programs I'm about to recommend, I highly suggest YouTubing or Googling tutorials, which there are tons of, so you can gauge which will be the right one for your budget and skill level. But with these tutorials, you can eventually learn any program sufficiently enough to edit videos for YouTube. Your learning time for Tier 1 options will be much less than the options from Tiers 2 and 3, but similarly to the picture editing options, what you gain in ease you do lack in control. iMovie does not give you a lot of customization availability, and when you're more comfortable with editing, you may find that a program as simple as iMovie slows you down or inhibits you more than it helps you. For Tier 2, I recommend Final Cut Pro 10. Now, there are many other editing programs that are much cheaper than Final Cut Pro 10, which rings in at $300, but I recommend this one here because I feel it offers the best range and room to grow as you go from a beginner to more advanced. It has similarities to iMovie like some pre-designed templates or video filters, and it has an interface that for beginners is pretty simple, but it also gives you the flexibility of professional and advanced options when you've become more comfortable with editing and advance in skill level. Despite its somewhat higher price tag, there are a ton of tutorials online for you to learn this program, and it does at least come with a 30-day free trial for you to test out before you commit. I do not have Final Cut Pro 10 to show you in this video because I do not own it since I personally don't like it. However, that's just because I was taught in school on Final Cut Pro 7, which I'll talk more about in a minute, but it's a radically different program that is more professionally based and less consumer based than Final Cut Pro 10, and I've found I'm much quicker on editing programs that have more of the traditional pro editing functionalities that I learned on. If you are not already familiar with professional editing programs, I think Final Cut Pro 10 will be an easier transition for you. The biggest general downside is that it only runs on Mac.
For Tier 3, I would recommend more advanced editing software.
The programs I'm specifically talking about are Adobe Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro 7, and Avid. As I just mentioned, Final Cut Pro 7 is what I was taught on in film school, and it was what I edited all my videos with up until last summer when I made the switch to Adobe Premiere Pro. I did this because Final Cut Pro 10 replaced 7, and 7 would no longer be receiving updates, and also because I ultimately found that Premiere had some options that helped me to edit quicker than Final Cut Pro 7 could. I do think Premiere is the better option for those reasons, a few other specifics, and because it can be used on either PC or Mac, unlike Final Cut Pro, which can only run on Mac, but both offer the capability to fully control your video edit with professional tools. Avid is another big player here, but I'm not familiar with it personally, so I'm not going to go into that. A downside to this tier is that it will take more time to learn the programs, and the interface can be more intimidating or confusing than the previous options. They are also more expensive. Final Cut Pro 7 can still be found on Amazon and similar sites for a few $100s, and Premiere works the same as Photoshop, where you pay monthly to use the software, which easily can add up to hundreds of dollars when you're using it over the long term.
Now that we've talked about your options, I want to talk about some tips to keep in mind while you're editing to make sure that you are making some solid content for your audience. The first thing you want to ask yourself is this pacing too slow to the point that maybe it's boring for the audience, or that they might be skipping through the video to find something that they're interested in? If the pacing is too slow, a solution is to use jump cuts to get to the point, to shorten your sentences, to cut out words like der. Or is the pacing too fast that it ends up being overwhelming for the audience to watch, or it's confusing and jarring and you just don't know what's going on? Sometimes the point of a video is to be super fast and overwhelming. For example, my 1-minute tutorials are supposed to fit as much information as possible into a minute, to the point that it's kind of comical. But if you're strictly trying to be very educational and informative in a tutorial, not always the best option. A way to fix that would be to spread out your sentences a little more, to slow down your voiceover, or to allow longer seconds of instructions in between the voiceover. Let people watch what you're doing for an extra 5 seconds and then jump into the next section. That way they can really separate the instructions that you're giving them and let it sink in. Please remember that I went through 4 years of film school and an extra 5 years of experience editing after that to learn all of the things that I know today, and I'm still nowhere near that knowledgeable compared to a professional editor in the industry. There are so many things you can do with editing, and you should not expect to learn any of this overnight. I wish that I could teach you guys everything that I know that goes into one tutorial, but every tutorial that I edit takes days of work. And there's a lot of little nuanced things that go into it that would never even fit in one video, let alone in a series, and that's why there are channels dedicated to things just like how to edit with Final Cut Pro or Premiere or iMovie or whatever. I'm trying to pack as much information in here as I can for you guys, so I hope that's cool. Okay, moving on. On to sound. Let's first discuss your options for recording sound for your videos, both voiceover and what's called diegetic sound, sounds that are happening in the world of the footage that you're filming. Your tier 1 option for recording the sound going on in your video is, take it away,
is to use the built-in or what's called the internal mic of the camera that you're using. I believe this is where my internal mic picks up audio in my Canon 7D, but even if you can't see it, any camera that records video will have one. They aren't great quality-wise, but they require zero effort, time, and money.
You might also choose to do a voiceover to enhance your video. I use it personally to do instructions because I find that if I do a talk-through video, I don't get out as many useful points as I would if I have time to sit and think about it after the fact and look at what I'm doing and the decisions that I'm making. You don't have to do a voiceover, but if you're going to, here's your tier 1 option for that.
This amazing little trick is one that Chase clued me into when I first started making videos, and I still use it today. In fact, I'm using it right this second to do this very voiceover you're hearing. Okay, so the Voice Memos app on your iPhone. Other smartphones have comparable ones, or you can get something like it in your app store. You can use this to record voiceovers simply by pushing the red button and talking closely to the bottom end of your phone. I hold mine very close to my mouth, about 3 to 5 inches away, and I hold it an inch or two off to one side so I'm not speaking directly into the phone. If you do that, well, I'll do it right now. If you do that, all the hard consonant sounds like p, k, t will get picked up and your sound will suck. I learned that the hard way. Then you can email it directly to yourself and drag it into your editing program. So easy, so free, sounds pretty dang good.
Your tier 2 options for recording sound.
Begin with your voiceover options this time. I recommend buying a condenser microphone that is $200 or less. All of these options on screen fall into that category, and many of them are under $80 even. These will give you very good quality voiceovers for a reasonable budget as far as microphones go, and many of them are USB mics, which gives you an easy way to upload your audio recordings directly onto your computer. The downside, of course, is that this costs more than nothing, like the last tier. To capture diegetic sound, or the sound that matches up with the actions that you see on screen, I recommend getting a moderately priced external mic that can plug directly into your camera. This metal-looking bracket at the top of my DSLR is what's called a hot shoe, and I can attach my mic, which is a Rode VideoMic Pro, directly to my camera by sliding it into the brackets and twisting at the base to tighten. Then this cord hanging off the mic plugs directly into the mic port on the side of my camera, turn it on, and it's set to go. The downside again is that this is also going to run you $200 or less, but the big perk of a mic like this is that the sound will now record directly onto the card with your image. They will be synced automatically when you go to edit it later, and you'll notice the sound quality is much better than the internal mic mentioned in the last tier.
Your tier 3 option for this is to choose a professional directional mic or a pro digital recorder. Let me show you what some of those look like.
These are professional level recorders. These are some examples of professional directional mics, and I know they look very similar, but these vary wildly in price from $250 to over $1,800. These are pro digital recorders and are also quite expensive, but they offer similar perks. If you want to look a little more into this, lavalier mics are also a great option at this level, but they have a more limited use than the previous two kinds that I mentioned, so I'm not going to delve too much into that right meow. Like pretty much all the tier 3 options in this series so far, you get the most control and best quality out of these. A good microphone positioned to pick up the sound you need to record can make a crucial difference in your channel if your channel has an audio-heavy theme, like a music channel, an interview channel, short films, or even a gaming channel. But if your channel is something like lifestyle, cosplay, comedy, makeup, fitness, vlogging, etc., I think you could definitely do just fine with something from tier 2 or maybe even tier 1 for quite a long time.
Tip for tier 1 and 2 though in this case, because these mics are not the best of quality, you want to make sure that you are either A, filming in a quiet room if possible, preferably with carpet because that reduces the echo and the background noise, or if you can't control that, it is possible to edit the background noise down in post, meaning in your editing software. I cannot control my surroundings quite as well because I do not have a tier 3 mic yet. I get a lot of background noise from the air conditioner, which is always running when I'm using this camera in particular. Both of my cameras overheat, but this one like a mofo. I live very close to a very loud highway in Los Angeles, which is always busy. And I must film in the living room, which has a hardwood floor, because if I film on carpet, I will destroy it.
With the blood and the glitter and the latex and the things and all the sticky and all the glue and all the sparkly.
But that means that I am also echoey in this room, and all the background noise just bounces even more. So I'm going to leave a link in the description box below on how you can use something called Adobe Audition to reduce the background noise in your video, if all else fails. And it is worth it, because this is what it sounds like if you don't. And it's just better the other way. Much better. A tip for tier 3, because a lot of those microphones will not be plugged directly into your camera, they will be recorded and saved onto a separate memory card that is not the same one that is saving the image of your footage. What that means is you're going to have to sync your good audio with your good video so that all of the mouth motions match up with what you're saying. That can be tricky and time consuming, and it's just not so fun to do, quite frankly. But an easy way to fix that is either 1, clap in your video while your mic is running. Then you can find the clap in your audio from your good microphone, and you can see the clap in your video. You just line them up at the same time, and they're synced. Another tip is, if possible, you're going to want to invest in a good pair of noise canceling over-the-ear headphones, and you will always want to edit with those. Reason being, you hear the audio much more accurately. Also, you want to be aware of how high your audio is peaking in your video. Peaking means the top of the bar that you can see in most editing programs of your audio levels. The industry standard is for those levels to be around -6. Anything above 0 and the audio will clip, which means that it will have this really uncomfortable, distorted sound that nobody wants to hear. Here's an example. I've turned it up way past 0, and doesn't it sound kind of funny and buzzy and strange, and you don't really want to listen to it anymore, but I'm still gonna make you listen to it by talking forever and ever and ever and ever and ever? Don't do that. Keep it between -6 and 0. Let's talk music for your YouTube videos, because music can really enhance everything. It can set the mood, it can relax you, it can energize you, it can help clue you into when the punchline of a joke is coming. Now, you don't have to use music in your videos, but if you're going to, here's some options. And there's no tier 1, 2, or 3 for this because they are all equally valid options, so long as they're legal. First option is the library provided by YouTube itself.
You can find this under the Create tab of the Creator Studio when you're signed into your YouTube account. You have access to a ton of songs and sound effects that can be sorted by genre, mood, instrument, duration, and attribution. If you need to credit a song when used, it'll let you know exactly how you can do that when you click on it, and you can download and enter it into your editing program right from there.
Your second option is non-copyrighted music. You can Google or YouTube this to find a ton of options, but a very popular option on YouTube, and one that I use, is no copyright sounds. They provide EDM music for content creators who need to use it in YouTube videos or other various things, and the only thing that you need to do is make sure that you credit them, that you link the song, and you link to the artist. Your third option is to pay for a subscription to a site that gives you licensing for their audio. I pay for a subscription to Audio Blocks, which is a website that does this. Another example is Audio Network. All of the contestants used Audio Network music in their videos for the Face Awards because they were a sponsor, but you can pay to subscribe to them as well. And these are good options because these libraries allow you to search via the mood, the instrument style, the beats per minute, all kinds of different things to find exactly what you need. But they're also limited. You're probably not going to find very good EDM on there, but then you have something like no copyright sounds if that's what you want. So depending on the video, I go between a lot of these options. Fourth option is to get permission or to buy the licensing rights to use a particular song. This can be as simple as asking a small artist that you like if you can use their song in a video, or it could be as involved as paying a record label thousands and thousands of dollars to use a very popular, well-known song. You're probably not going to do that for your YouTube videos, but like I said, you can reach out to any artist that you like and ask them if they wouldn't mind letting you use their song. You can also contact small labels and ask them if you would be able to use any of their music at any time for your videos. Just make sure that if you go with this option, you get it all in writing. You specify whether it's one song or many or unlimited, as in every song a label puts out kind of deal. Make sure the time frame is specified, how long you are able to use that song, and make sure that it's clear that you are allowed to monetize your video for yourself while using that song. If you have all those things in writing, you're good to go. This is a great option too because hopefully it's mutually beneficial both for you and the song artist or label that you're using. Fifth option is MCNs. Some major MCNs have an entire library of music that you can choose from to put in your videos as part of being under their umbrella of channels, and those are songs that sometimes are normally copyrighted, but you can use. If you don't know what an MCN is, it's a multi-channel network, and I will be talking in length about my opinion of them in the last video of this series. But for now, all you need to know is that sometimes they offer music for you to use in your videos that you otherwise would have a hard time getting. With all that said, here's a couple warnings about your music options. The first warning is that you can still get screwed. There is a thing that YouTube has called a Content ID system where it can automatically pick up copyrighted music, flag it, and that could be bad. Or sometimes they can be manually flagged even when you've gotten permission. I've even had some non-copyrighted music get flagged before because sometimes people make remixes that they think aren't copyrighted anymore that have parts of songs in them that are definitely copyrighted, and then it becomes flaggable for the person who owns the copyrighted content, even if it's minuscule. Which brings me to my last warning, fair use. A lot of people think that you can use any song, anywhere, anytime, for less than 30 seconds, and it's considered fair use. Not true. Hear me when I say this. Fair use is completely subjective. There is no set rule to determine whether it's fair use or not. It ends up being up to the decision of a court if it comes down to taking someone to court for it. Unless you have written permission or you've paid for the rights to use a song, you do not have any real coverage for your bootay. And fair use is certainly the most risky of them all. Fair use is to avoiding copyright infringement, like pulling out is to avoiding pregnancy. You might get away with it sometimes. Heck, you might get away with it a lot of times. But sometimes it's not gonna work, and when you get fluffed, you shouldn't be surprised. Glad we had that talk. What happens when you get flagged is sometimes your video just gets taken down completely. Period. End of story. It could put a strike on your account, which is very no bueno. You don't want that. You get 3 and you're out of here, just like a baseball game. Could just get you a copyright claim, which is not really a biggie. Or the person who owns the copyright might monetize your video for you, meaning that they will let you keep your video up, but all the money that you make off that video will go to them instead of you. So you can either let them monetize the video, or you can re-upload it without that song. With a new song, or with nothing. Yes. Be careful. Moral of the story. So that's everything, I think, for editing and audio on how to get started on YouTube/social media. The last video in the series was camera and lighting, which you can find right here, and these are the other videos coming up in the series that you have to maybe look forward to, I hope. They will all be clickable once they are all done. Let me know if you are particularly excited about one of these videos and if you have any specific questions about one of the topics. I'll try my best to answer it. I'm not the only tough-looking chick in this place today. She looks much tougher than me. You got the hoodie, I got the snapback. Together we look like 2 boss-ass bitches. Get it? Get it? 'Cause she's a female dog?
Chillin' like a villain. Dojin' like a... Nothing rhymes with it. Poach, woj, coach, slow. Does anything rhyme with Doge?
I am the one who naps. If you know what that's in reference to. Are you shivering? You're shivering and you're all bundled up. Oh, let me warm you, my little baby. Alaskan Kleekai my ass. More like Florida Kleekai.